Welcome back to Delta Hands. Janet Urrate has been a lettering specialist, making diplomas and formal documents by hand. But now she paints outside the lines and with several kinds of paint.
I had a sort of a watershed experience about 8 years ago when I took my first watercolor class with an instructor. And the first day of class I knew that my life was going to change and that I had found what I was going to do the rest of my life. I had studied the history of lettering arts. I knew, 4 or 5 different fonts. Everything was very geometric and very structured. And so when I first picked up that big mop of a brush and dipped it into the color and swashed it across the paper and the colors bled together, maybe it brought back some childhood memories, or I don't know what it was, but it was like falling off a turnip truck. And it's been wonderful. It's been enriching and exciting, and it's a good fit for me. And my mother was a visual person, so I grew up with that in my home. She was really an inspiration to me all my life. And so I became comfortable with expressing myself that way. Actually, I'm really not working as a traditional watercolorist right now. The work that I have here is what I guess we would call mixed media. I use dry pigment and pen and ink and watercolor on synthetic paper. And I can't seem to, once I complete a group of work, for some reason I need to change something about it or push it a little further. I just can't seem to do the same thing over and over again. And the more mature I am, the further along I get in the process, the less of a perfectionist I am. I realize that perfectionism is a form of neuroses. And if you look under one of my drawing tables, I have a big pile of work. In other words, nothing is that important that has to be precious. So what I do is I work now more quickly, and if a piece isn't working, it goes under the table. And I move on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and that releases this joyousness. When it's going right, it's almost an altered state. I'll be working along. It takes time to get to that place, and I've learned also that I come up to my studio whether I'm tired or whether I don't feel like coming up. I don't wait for inspiration to come, because I've learned it comes from just working. Not every day does this happen, but when it does happen, I know it's right. And I have a wonderful feeling of peacefulness when I leave the studio after I've had that experience. My images come totally from within me. I don't use subject matter. I don't paint from a setup, or sometimes I'll draw from a model to keep my drawing skills current, but it tends to come from my imagination. And what I'll do is I'll start with lights and darks as I have here, and then before I put any detail, I'll tack it up on the wall, and I'll stand back from it. This is my little viewing chair right over here, and study it and look for exciting or good composition. And once I feel like that's there, then I bring it back and I start working with smaller details, the line work or the texture, building up the texture. So it's like building anything. You start big and then go to small. I'm in the process of finding my own, I hate to use the word voice, it sounds kind of corny, but really that's what I'm doing. I'm experimenting with papers and mediums and keeping journals and clipping things, and every minute of every day is a gathering process. Sometimes it's subconscious, sometimes it's conscious, to find the subject matter that I really want to work with, and I'm getting there. When that communication takes place, where the viewer sees something that they enjoy in the painting, that's just a bonus for me.
Next on Delta Hands, the colors, shapes, and flow of light.